case to take, because if you talk about leaving no one behind, let's start with 25 million people in Niger, who are the most left behind people on the planet right now. Very clear. And so it's a very good question, and it's exactly why hard-headed engineering for photovoltaics, engineering for connectivity, primary health systems based on community healthcare outreach, education systems based on some connected classrooms, for example, because there are not teachers that can teach all the kids. The median age in Niger is 15 years old. You have more than half the country in school age. So this requires really hard-headed analysis, good hearts, and a lot of help. That's why it's a wonderful case. We should put Niger high on the list for SDG success. So all of this is to say, please get organized. We'll give you intellectual backing, analytical backing, quantitative backing, connections with experts. That's my job. But you're on the ground. Without this being led everywhere, it's impossible. No one else is going to save Niger but people of Niger. This is for sure. But they can't do it by themselves. So that's the notion of a network, and that's the notion of local leadership. You're all of you prepared to be local leaders right now. I'm not convinced you're prepared to be national leaders or world leaders just yet. But you're all prepared to be local leaders right now. And if you work very hard at it, you'll be very successful. And you'll be in a unique position to continue to spread the word. Gain some successes under your belt, really important. And keep building, keep expanding, and this will work. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor. Monsignor?
I want to say that we are here in the Academy not only because our some sort of hospice that not annul any relation with the Academy. The Academy, for many years, worked in this subject in parallel to the OECD, and in a very important, for example, the question of climate change was an invention of the Academy, of our team, of the Academy, Crutzen, Molina. So, and also the question of the great problem that the Pope want to study, the question of the new form of slaves in the form of forced labor, prostitution, and organ trafficking is also one of the subjects that the Academy study in relation with the other things. So please read also the things that have the Academy and produce the Academy that are in our website, because I think that we need to have a more clear synthesis or hierarchy of the objectives of the development. Because, for example, I don't find in the objectives the word fraternity or the word solidarity, and this is very important because they are the motor. And this is the subject of our meeting. We need to put this. In the contrary, we don't have right to realize these new objectives. So my intervention is to say, please look also the work of the Academy, and that is in parallel to the work of the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ala?
I'm just going to comment on, I think, two things. The first is, with all due respect, Professor Sachs, I disagree fundamentally on national and global leadership. I think that many of you arguably know more than your elected officials about the SDGs. Many of you arguably know more about Agenda 2030 and about sustainability. And I think a huge way to actually achieve the SDGs is to run for office. Run for local office, run for national office. I don't care, but run for office. Get some actual political power, because once you're in those rooms, you can call people up like Professor Sachs and say, who are the experts on this? Because I actually have some legitimate authority, I have resources, and I have capability. But continuing, I think, to tell this generation that we're not yet prepared for national and global leadership allows for a political apparatus which I think is just not fit for purpose to remain. And so I fundamentally think that y'all should just, if you think you have the capacity and the capability, and you have the opportunity, and you can get the resources and the backing, run for office. You're more prepared than most of the guys who've been sitting in the chairs for 20 and 30 years. The second thing I will mention is incentive. I think, you know, it's all good and well for us to talk quite a bit about the challenges and about what we want to do, and the reality is there's got to be some sort of incentive in terms of engagement, especially long-term engagement for most of us. And I think we haven't had an honest conversation about what the practical things we need to get organized and to get connected and to work on these issues for the long term are. So I think my interest really, and one of the main reasons I came here, was to hear, okay, so what are we not getting? A lot of you have brought up some very important parts. Some is actual access, mentorship, and ability. Others have said resources are very important. Some have said training is very important. What can we do to actually solve those practical issues so we can strategize legitimately? So we can make strategies that you can actually get funding for and support for and connections for. What is it we can practically do? I think it's great for all of us to have ideas. I think that's awesome. But we need some plans, and we need some legitimate strategy, and we need to talk about how we're going to fund it, who's going to be accountable for it. Do we need to create some sort of network for access for certain countries, et cetera? But those would be my two things. Let's start thinking, I think, a bit more strategically. And the second is run for office.
Thank you. We do have to close the session, unfortunately, but I encourage you to continue the discussion outside, and we will start in about 10 minutes. Thank you.